This morning we're talking about the 10 Demandments of Abundance, but this is part 2 because we covered the first 5 last week. We'll cover actually 4 more this week. I'll get into that, and I will review. So this month we're really taking it to heart what the Master Teacher Jesus taught us, his admonition. Judge ye not by appearances, but judge ye by righteous judgment. And we're putting that in context of our current economic situation. I don't know if you've noticed gas prices are starting to go up, and they're talking about, of course with the presidential campaign, it's all about the economy and who's making it worse than that. It just seems that, everywhere we turn, we hear more and more in the news about, oh, it's just so awful. So of course, there is evidence that this is true. I mean, we can see it with the Arco and Voyat. We watch them as they battle and go up, and we watch them when they come down too. But as science of mind practitioners, those who practice this faith...
Not me, I get my gas free.
That's just true.
I have no idea what gas prices are.
Awesome. Those who practice this faith and philosophy, we don't really deny the facts, do we? We don't deny the facts. However, as Ernest Holmes says in The Science of Mind, page 213, he says, disease is a fact, but not a truth. It is an experience, but not a spiritual reality. We must transcend the appearance, even though we admit it as a fact. So that's a tricky one. It's like, okay, we see that, it's a fact, but it's not the truth about us. So that's really what we're all about this month. Transcending the appearance and looking to the spiritual reality behind everything. That's what Jesus meant when he used the words, judge by righteous judgment. Okay, so we need to see the spiritual reality, the truth, and that's truth with a capital T, of every situation. And that's why we're exploring the 10 Demandments of Abundance. And it's the way that it takes us to our place of righteous judgment. It brings us to the consciousness where we can look at things in righteous judgment. So I introduced the Demandments last week. And if you remember, they're really not demandments that are being made by me, nor by the Center for Spiritual Living Modesto, or even by religious science. They're the demandments that are being made by the universe itself. And when we meet these demandments and align with an abundant state of consciousness, we shall prosper even though all the banks shall close their doors. And that quote is from a Charles Fillmore book, which is called Prosperity. I don't know if anyone has read that, but we'll prosper even when all the banks close their doors. So we looked at the first 5 of the 10 Demandments last week. How did all of you, I handed out tasks. How did everybody do on their tasks? Did anybody follow any of those? Do you remember your tasks for last week if you got them? Okay, well, we'll just kind of go through them a little bit. The first demandment is, thou shalt make no graven mental images of lack. And the task 1 was, when your attention is turned to lack and limitation, you are to say to yourself, "Tain't so, tain't so," just like the little lady on the rocking chair who would listen to everyone coming to her and complain about everything that was wrong in their lives, and she would just rock and say to herself, "Tain't so, tain't so." That's all she did, and when they left, they were healed. She was known as a healer in the area where she was. So number 2, thou shalt not speak the word of lack or limitation. That's pay attention and weed out our words of lack and limitation. And I think we all practice that pretty well, don't we? We hear ourselves say something and we say cancel. No, we're not going to go there. We're not going to do that. Demandment number 3, thou shalt trust the promise of abundance. And this is starting at Luke 12:22. The task 3 was to breathe and let go and put your full weight down in this promise and make as your mantra, I trust life. All I need comes to me. And I added Reverend Tanya's mantra that she was using. I allow God to give me my good. There's something really magical about that. When you say I allow, it's you're giving the universe permission to give you your good. Have you given the universe permission to do that yet? Have you said, I give you permission? Because maybe there's something in you that is holding you back from getting it. So I allow God to give me my good. It's It's just a wonderful feeling that comes to you because you're stepping into your power. You're in charge. Number 4. Okay. Number 4. Thou shalt listen for and follow Spirit's lead. Task number 4 was to open your heart and mind to Spirit and listen, and then follow. Number 5 was thou shalt regularly attend to forgiveness. Every evening before you go to bed, before you fall asleep, ask yourself, who have I put out of my heart today? Forgive and bless. Let me tell you, this is not an easy one. Sometimes those images come up and it just brings right back everything that you're not happy about. And you can start by just saying the words, I forgive and bless them, I forgive and bless them. And pretty soon, there's a little feeling, a little emotion. And pretty soon, you know what? They don't even pop in your mind as being out of your heart because they're just part of the one, and it's not a problem. How did you do on that one? Did anyone practice that this week?
Think about cancel. I did that.
You did that?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so now we're going to go on with our second half of our 10 Demandments. Number 6, thou shalt not covet that which is another's. A famous movie director who appeared to have it all, but never felt he had enough, once said, every time a friend succeeds, I die a little. Isn't that something? When we covet or we're jealous of another's good, that's exactly what we do. We die a little bit. And we turn off the faucet of flow. There is the story that I think it might have been Reverend Sandy who told of the young man walking along the streets of New York and looking up into the penthouses and seeing the chandeliers and seeing the wealth and all that was up in through these windows. And instead of being jealous or mad because they had it and he didn't, he said, that's for me. That's for me. So when you see something, and thank them for pointing out that they just showed you something that you really want, that you really didn't know, and now you do. And if they can have it, well, what does our teaching say? If something is true for one, it's true for all. So if someone can achieve it, so can you, if it's something you really, truly want. So that's a very powerful thing to do. Dr. Joseph Murphy in The Power of Your Subconscious Mind said, envy and jealousy are stumbling blocks to the flow of wealth. Why? Because jealousy sends a very, very loud and crystal clear message to the universe. What is that message? That you believe that your supply is limited, that you believe that there's just only so much to go around, and darn it, someone else, that dirty scoundrel, has gotten your share. Have you ever felt that way? I've had moments where it's like feeling like something was being taken away from me until I'm reminded that we live in a universe of abundance. Jack Addington, in his book, The Hidden Mystery of the Bible, gives us wise counsel when he writes, to covet another's good only diminishes our own, for it holds up to life an image of lack for ourselves. To rejoice in another's good fortune is the best way of all to build an awareness of the very same thing for ourselves. And isn't that wonderful? And I thought about this when I was asking about your cats. And I thought, you love your cat so much, and my recognizing that love, it just grows. I mean, I can feel the love for the cats that I don't even know from your love. Love is contagious. It's amazing. And I really can't be around cats too much because I'm allergic to them, but I can still love them. So isn't that a neat lesson right there? I may not agree with what some of the teachings in churches are teaching around our country or around our world, but I can still love them because there's love that's there. And all of our major religions are based on love. So that's a good thing. So task number 6. Whenever you hear or see of another prospering, even if you think he or she is doing better than you are going to say 2 sentences, either in your head or preferably out loud to them. And you're going to say, wow, that's great. I'm so happy for you. Wow, that's great. I'm so happy for you. So now I want you to practice. I want you to find a partner, and I want you to each tell each other something terrific about your life right now, and the other one will say, wow, that's great. I'm so happy for you. Okay, and then the other person does it too. So I'll come in.
Disney Park, Disney World,
Okay. So let's go on. All right, on to task number 7. Thou shalt keep thy good in circulation. There's an old saying, when things get tight, something's got to give. And I think we've really done this with our church. And I think we've done it individually as well. We tithe, we donate, we see needs out there, we give, and we keep the flow going. And that's a good thing. It feels really good to be in that. Ernest Holmes said it really well in The Science of Mind when he said, when circulation is retarded, stagnation results. It is only as we allow the divine current to flow through us, in and out, that we really express life. The law of giving and receiving is definite. Emerson tells us to beware of holding too much in our hands. There's that vision I have with, when you try to hold on to sand, or anything like that, it just kind of slips through your fingers. But there's an abundance. If we truly trust the universe, we know that there's an abundance there. When we are in need or feeling a financial tightening, we all have that tendency to draw in. And, I was just thinking, I get a dose of this every Friday when I speak with my dad, and I realized that over my entire life that we were either in a tough economic time or we were heading to one. Never did we reach a time when, okay, we can breathe, we're okay now. We were never okay. It was either really bad or it was getting bad. It was never any good in there, and I thought, that's not right, and that's not the truth. It was just his anticipation for it, because he felt if he could, be prepared, then it wouldn't be so bad. But he's lived 86 years in a depression. Wow. That's I feel bad about that, but that's his journey to figure out. So.
And also this week, you and I had the opportunity to take a 7-year-old girl who had a fire in her house, and she lost everything in her room. And so we took her shopping for clothes. And
the church helped out with that too. She lost everything. This was Luann's granddaughter, and the fire broke out in her room. She lost everything. She had, her school clothes, everything gone. So we've been very fortunate to be able to help out with that. So, I'm not suggesting that we have wild and reckless spending, although that can be fun too. But I'm suggesting that we be mindful of a consciousness of hoarding. Now, we've all seen those shows, maybe briefly, because they're a little bit too close to home, on people who hoard. They walk in and there's like this little tiny itty bitty pathway, getting into wherever it is, and you're thinking, why? Because they fear that it won't be there when they need it. They know that if they throw out that rubber band, by darn, that's what they're going to need the next day. And they don't remember that the abundance is already ours. So that just doesn't serve us. A powerful and explicit illustration of the idea of the need to stay in the circulatory process can be found in the 2 seas that are located in Palestine. Both seas are fed by the River Jordan. And this will not be a geography test, I promise. One is fresh and well stocked with fish. Splashes of green adorn its banks. Trees spread their branches over it and stretch their thirsty roots to sip of its healing waters. Homes are built near it, children play around it, and the area prospers. To the south lays the other sea. It has no fish, no fluttering leaf, no song of birds, no children's laughter. Travelers choose another route rather than pass it unless they are on urgent business. The air hangs heavy above its waters, and neither man nor beast nor fowl will drink from the water. What is the difference between these 2 seas? The same water from the River Jordan flows into both of these seas, and it's not the soil of the countryside surrounding the area, because both are in the same region. So what's the difference? The first sea is the Sea of Galilee, the sea that is alive and rich and receives but does not keep the water from the Jordan River. For every drop of water that flows into it, another drop flows out. The other sea is not so generous. It hoards its water and releases not one drop. The Sea of Galilee gives and lives. The other sea gives nothing, and it is aptly named the Dead Sea. There's no outlet for the Dead Sea. There's no way for fresh to come in and go out, to keep it alive and moving. In order to keep that energy coming to us, we have to keep the energy circulating. Like a river, money must be kept flowing, otherwise it begins to stagnate, to clog, to suffocate, and to strangle its very own life force. Circulation keeps us alive and vital. So task number 7. Ask and answer this question, where could you give more freely? Number 8, thou shalt not steal, which is actually the 8th commandment. You know, the real commandments, not the demandments. But I've made a small change. Thou shalt not steal from thyself. And what do you think I mean by that? How do you rob yourself of your good? By having thoughts of unworthiness and undeservedness. Any thoughts that your current state of affairs is because you are bad or unworthy or undeserving, those are thoughts that are never going to amount to anything. The law of cause and effect is always at work, and we have a responsibility for our own experiences. And the best news is that we have an ability, with a change in consciousness, transformation, right, to change our experience. But if we've created a less than ideal situation for ourselves, it's because of our ignorance and nothing more. So we always have the opportunity to become more conscious, right? If we, sometimes we don't know better, but then we do. I'm kind of glad that's there. We really should, and I should not say the word should, but we definitely should say daily, using our names, declare the truth about ourselves. I, Chris, declare the truth about myself. And realizing we are reflecting our statements into consciousness and that they will be operated upon by it, right? When we state it into the truth, it's operated upon by it. This is called in mysticism high invocation, invoking the divine mind and planting within it seeds of thought relative to oneself. And this is why some of our teachers of the olden times used to instruct their pupils to cross their hands over their chests and say, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful me. Definitely teaching them they mentally held themselves, that was how they held themselves, so that they would remember. So let's try that now. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful me. So remember, we can do this, right? So task number 8 is to remind yourself daily who we are. And that's a good way to do this. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful me. Okay? Number 9. There we go. Thou shalt have an attitude of gratitude. And I'll bet you were wondering when I was going to get to this, because I love gratitude. I think gratitude is just one of the most powerful things that we can do. So, is it because God's expecting you to be grateful? Is God expecting us to be grateful? No. God is the infinite giver of life, neither desiring or requiring anything in return. Words of thanksgiving, our words of thanksgiving, align us with God. That's what it does. It just brings us in alignment with God. Ernest Holmes says that a thankful heart is in harmony with life. Isn't that wonderful? A thankful heart is in harmony with life. A thankful heart puts us in the divine flow of life. Feelings of gratitude align us with the universal riches, and being grateful for stuff that doesn't look so good in our lives, we all have a little of that, is truly a powerful way to align. So let's bring back the rising gas prices as an example. What is there to be thankful about for this? I know you don't have to worry about it, Suzanne, because you get free gas, but come on.
See what she's manifested, though?
I know, that's amazing. Come on, there really, really is a lot. What happens when things get uncomfortable? When things, you have to change, right? We begin to seek out solutions, don't we? Right? After all, we do want to get back to our comfort zones as soon as possible. So we're trying to figure out how we cannot be so uncomfortable about this. So we turn our attentions to finding a solution. And perhaps we focus on ways to get ourselves off of our dependency on oil. We've seen a lot of that. We've seen the hybrids coming out. We've seen different types of fuels being used. So, it almost has to get uncomfortable for change to happen in a lot of ways. So the famous scholar Matthew Henry was once accosted by thieves and robbed of his purse. He wrote these words in his diary: "Let me be thankful first, because I was never robbed before. Second, because although they took my purse, they did not take my life. Third, because they took my all, it was not much. And fourth, because it was I who was robbed, not I who robbed." So look how he took that situation and completely turned it around. It was quite amazing. So task number 9, we might call this one the no-brainer. What is this task? Of course, it's to find ways to be grateful every day. So how many times do we need to be grateful? How many times is what's a good number, would you think? At least half a dozen, 10 times? I don't know, as many times as you can think. Because the more you're in that zone, the more you're in the flow. So number 10, our final demandment, thou shalt look to no other source but God for thy supply. This is an important demandment, and it's such an important demandment that I'm going to save it. We're not going to do it this week. I'm going to save it till next week so we can really, really focus on that. So come back next week for the next installment. You too can listen to it when I upload it to the YouTube. I'll leave a little cliffhanger here. So for now, you have the 10 prosperity demandments. Rich, would you hand these out? I've printed them so you can take them home and post them somewhere. And I put the tasks in there too to help you remember.
So this includes last week's?
Yes, I did the whole thing.
Right.
So as a final activity, let's read them together, but with a little twist. And I actually wrote them. I wrote them the way I want you to read them. Instead of saying, thou shalt, I wrote, I shall. We're changing the thou to an I. Wait for Rich to pass them out. So we're not reading the task part, we're just reading the demandments. Okay. Were there just enough?
No, there's...
One more? Okay. No, that's okay. I don't need it. All right, so let's read them together. Number 1, I shall make no graven mental images of lack. Number 2, I shall not speak the word of lack or limitation. Number 3, I shall trust the promise of abundance. Number 4, I shall listen for and follow Spirit's lead. Number 5, I shall forgive. Number 6, I shall not covet that which is another's. Number 7, I shall keep my wealth in circulation. Number 8, I shall not steal from myself. Number 9, I shall have an attitude of gratitude. Number 10, I shall look to no other source but God for my supply. And so it is.